Welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. Each week, we hear real-time stories from athletes and CEOs on how to maximize performance through an endurance mindset. Let's get started. Welcome to the Chief Endurance Officer Podcast. I'm your host, Greg McDonough. I am super excited to introduce this guest today and tell you his incredible story. He is a passionate storyteller, educator, elite mountain athlete. After a devastating car accident, nearly ending his athletic career, he has rebuilt himself and eventually climbed the elevation of Everest within a single week. He is a record-setting, fastest known time athlete, professional mountain guide, and dedicated mentor. And he's on the journey, or maybe you've completed this already, to this first set of 100 fastest known times. Please welcome Jason Hardrath. Jason, welcome.
Greg, it's an absolute pleasure to be on the show. And yeah, I have completed the journey to 100 FKTs. Yeah.
I got to tell you, when we reached out to you, I had no idea what an FKT is. So I'm looking forward to unpacking that a little bit later. But first, Jason, I love talking about the endurance and the endurance mindset. How has your endurance mindset impacted your life unexpectedly?
I mean, I started into it at such a young age. It sort of grabbed me, if you will, sort of this spirit of sport, the spirit of competition, and then the spirit of adventure as well as an expression of that. And chasing wholeheartedly into that and not listening to all the voices that said I needed to let that part of my life go to, oh, well, you should, just focus on a safe career and da-da-da. I did manage to land myself in a good career as a teacher and all of that, but I always kept that chasing of the next thing. I always kept that as a part of my life. And I think it's helped me not settle for less than a beyond ordinary life. And I think I bring that to how I teach and how I mentor young people, how I work with other athletes. I bring that to the projects I do, believing fully that some kid from some small town can travel the world and chase records on every continent and fly a paraglider off the world's tallest volcanoes and just chase whatever wild dream that seems like I can actualize it into reality. It's colored the whole way that I see potential in the world.
You mentioned noticing this or grabbing onto it at a young age. Could you give us a little bit more detail? Like, when did you, as you think back now, and as you're still on your journey, is there a time that you look back at your childhood, or maybe it's teenage years, that you said, that was the moment that I knew that I could do things that nobody else is willing to try and to go after and teach it and be sort of that mentor leader ultimately?
I think it's a journey of 1,000 little things, I guess. It comes to mind like just being a little skater punk kid back at the local skate park, just being the one who was willing to do trial after trial after trial of falling and falling and falling to finally earn the trick, versus other kids that try it once or twice and then be like, oh, I'm not going to do that again. Or, just show up to sneak off and smoke weed or something. Me and I'd just be out there skating it all day, just rep. And there's something in that of doing dangerous things carefully. I think a lot is learned about how to make your way in the world by doing dangerous things carefully. I think finding some positive identity as an athlete in middle school, sort of being seen as the person who worked hard in the PE mile and then getting onto the track team and sort of that being one of the more, I was an ADHD little kid, so had a lot of trouble not doing impulsive things and wrecking relationships and wrecking, positive situations for myself with impulsive behaviors. So having a positive expression for that in sport was a really powerful thing for me from a young age, and being able to lock into sort of this, I like to refer to it now as an upward spiral. Just having that lifestyle, mindset, and sort of the different achievements that can come as a part of that, and some of the identity and social standing that can come as a part of that, all be pieces within the puzzle.
It's interesting, Jason. As a parent, I now view the world a little bit differently than I did as a kid. And I could visualize you. I mean, I skateboarded a little bit, nothing to the extent that, a few bruised knees and bruised elbows, and that's about it. But there is a thing to that repetitive, hey, I'm just going to hammer, I'm going to try this until the sun goes down, the moon comes up, the sun comes up again, and I'm determined. Talk to us about that determination. Again, it's like at some point that is found in an individual, in my experience. I want to keep pulling that string to see what else comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I always like to say that I learned hard work from my dad. He was definitely a bit of a workaholic. And I think I was lucky enough to apply it to things that also sort of fit my passion as well.
Mm.
But I think, right, yeah, it's this mentality of no matter how hard it is, no matter how much suffering or struggle, if I see progress toward my goal, I'm a little closer to landing the trick. If I'm a little closer to hitting the goal time, whatever, shift the context to whatever sport or endeavor you want, then unlimited amount of effort is fine. It's like I'm willing to continue to just pour myself fully toward this goal if I see tangible progress. And then if I don't see tangible progress, it's a game of curiosity. It's why. What do I need to change? Who do I need to learn from? So yeah, it's this pathway when you're locked in the mindset of something you truly want, you drop into either perseverance or curiosity. And those are your only options. And I feel like it's when you can catch this, right? Those of us that have done endurance sports and like you sign up for the big race and then suddenly you go from the bike ride being the thing you look forward to like decompress from your day and like you enjoy messing around and chasing Strava segments or racing your buddies on the bike to, oh, I have to do my workout today. Just because you're signed up for the big thing. And to me, that's a big litmus test. And like the moment I hear that language in myself, the shift from want to, look forward to, dream of, hope for, into language of have to, must, I don't have an option. This is what I have to do. As soon as I start seeing things like that, either in myself or others, it's like, oh, well, now you've created a context where the way you're going to navigate that setback, where if you stop seeing progress, you're either going to get angry or you're going to give up. And those are less healthy, less optimal in today's society, less optimal options for healthy exits than curiosity and perseverance. So,
I was having an interesting conversation with my coach last week, and around the same topic. And she said it's like an arranged marriage, right? Like you've committed to it, you have to do it. Everything else around you just needs to go away so that you can sort of persevere and sort of, to your point, scratch that itch of curiosity.
Yeah, I think, right, I'm always wary. I mean, it's one thing to sort of eliminate every other option from sort of your mental, right? It's like I don't walk down the aisle with the Oreos because I know if I buy Oreos, I eat the whole package. It's just never, sweet tooth has never been something I regulate well. And for some reason, mint Oreos are the thing that they get me.
With ice cream?
Potentially with ice cream. It's like, that's like kryptonite for me. And so I just don't walk down that aisle of the store. It's like, I don't even want that to be on my radar. I don't want to have to make the decision to not buy them. I don't want to have them on my shelf at my house. So I think, there's something to be said for sort of purging your immediate environment. But I think also being aware of the internal environment, of being in touch with the why, the passion, the excitement, the experiment, the curiosity that makes you want to do something versus simply, well, I have no other options. And I think it's important to be noticing that difference.
So you mentioned walking down the aisle, not walking down the aisle where the Oreos are. And to me, that screams habits, right? It's like, where what do you put yourself into? What do you take yourself out of? How do you handle your morning routine? What's your evening routine? Like, what are the things, what are the ground rules that Jason has in order to summit all these peaks at the fastest known times? Like, give us a sense of what sort of rituals and habits you sort of hold on to in order to be able to achieve these feats.
Oh boy, which ones can we unpack and touch on in a short conversation? We've got a whole series here. One that comes to mind, like a really simple one that I've heard others talk about. It's a mixture of two I've heard others talk about, is bright lines and blurry targets. So bright lines is like if you're driving through a storm, the easiest roads to not end up on a ditch on are the ones where the lines are painted brightly. And you can tell, even if you're going through the storm and all hell is breaking loose, you're like, I don't go there. And I think those sorts of rules for ourselves, I always talk with my students a lot about the most important rules are the rules we have for ourselves. Because eventually nobody's coming. Eventually you don't have a PE teacher anymore. Eventually you don't have an instructor anymore. Eventually your parents are just a couple other adults that you happen to know. Hopefully well, but like you've got to have your own rules that keep you on the path toward what you want to go to. And I like to think of those as bright lines, and the brighter you can paint them, where it's like, yeah, okay, I don't walk down the Oreo aisle because it's a control for me not being tempted to constantly eat terrible junk food. I come from a family with a lot of diabetes and obesity. Like I don't come from like thoroughbred athlete family. It's like, if I want a different path, I have to make very intentional choices, and I'm not wired to make those choices well. So I'll just do a second order solve and not put myself in the situation where I know I make bad decisions. And so, yeah, those bright lines I feel like are really important to figure out through some self-awareness, some looking at yourself and how you behave in different settings and with different substances and with, different things that are or aren't moving you toward your goals, and then make some decisions about the environments you put yourself in. And then on the blurry targets side, I think that sort of speaks to when we're in the haze or marching through the swamps and we're not quite sure which direction to go in life. A lot of these times right now, there's a lot of unsureness about a lot of things for people in business and personal life and politics. And that can be really difficult to our psyche as human beings to kind of be in the unknown and to not have like a precise bullseye to aim at. But the thing is, you don't get into a range where you can actually even see the bullseye unless you're willing to move toward a blurry target you can just barely see on the horizon. Even if you just catch a glimpse of it, you go, well, I'm going to move in general direction, because at least that will reveal something about what I ought to do next, a more precise vision of what I want to aim at in the future. And so to me, blurry targets is about the moment you sense you want more of something in your life, you make moves toward that something, even if the plan isn't well fleshed out. I have a buddy that he spent a good chunk of his professional career in protective services. The guys that take bullets for people and keep them from being shot and whatnot. And he would always say, a moderate plan executed vigorously beats a great plan not executed every time. And those guys, when stuff, they've run through scenarios of like, this could happen, or this could be a potential thing, or a shooter could be here in this situation. We want to be aware of these potential threats. These could be the ways we could get boxed in that would be bad. They have an awareness. They have a general, like, all the chess pieces. But then if stuff does break loose, they are just execute. And I think we need to bring the same kind of a mentality when we get a vision, any amount of vision for like what would be a better move in our life. We just start making moves, because it's going to add clarity as we go.
Jason, I love that. And it's so well said. I'm curious, are those things that you've learned the hard way or were taught at some point in your life? Or a mixture of both?
It's an odd mixture of both. And also a third thing, I think, I know people always kind of referred to me as an old soul in high school. Like I was that kid. Um, you know, you could imagine like a 16-year-old talking like this. It doesn't quite hit the same as a 36-year-old talking like this. Um, and I don't know, I just have always sort of been guided and had a sense for deeper, more important things. And yeah, of course, I did my own foolish, silly things as a young person, but by and large, I steered clear a lot of pitfalls because I was willing to listen to good wisdom from others, or I was willing to weigh my decisions for myself based on something I knew I actually wanted. And I think that's one of the pros of an ADHD mindset. You can't ever just be told what to do because you can't focus. You can't direct your attention. It's like your attention is taken by the most compelling story in your life. So whatever it is you find that is sort of an obsession, a passion, a path forward that has meaning to you, that has all of your attention. And you don't get to choose to do the paperwork or the homework for someone else. You just can't like get your mind to like, it doesn't fit in this narrative that compels your life forward. So yeah, whenever people are working with ADHD people, I'm like, well, you just have to find out how to show them that the thing you care about fits into what they care about. Like where in that pyramid of value of what's going to move that story forward for them does your thing that you care about them learning fit? And if you can do that, they'll run through brick walls for you. And they'll do amazing things with what you put in front of them. But if you don't do that, if you just tell them to do it because you said so, hey, that might last all of like 10 minutes.
And the pushback and the fight and the resistance.
Yep. And it'll degrade the relationship. Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, to me, it's sort of been that I've always had to measure stuff against its opportunity cost as measured against sort of this vision and passion I had for what I cared to do with my time and what I wanted to chase in life. And I think that gave me a little more clarity than some people have when they're just kind of more able to like, oh, you want me to do this? I'll do this. You want me to do this? I'll do this without seeing any sort of it leading them anywhere.
Certainly. So shifting gears slightly, what I suspect is on the same topic. You've mentioned a couple of times mentoring and teaching. Is this mentoring kids? Are you mentoring mountaineering enthusiasts? Like, give us a sense of your mentoring and your coaching that you're doing right now.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a mixture. It's kind of all of the above. I mean, obviously, I discovered that I had a knack for teaching skills and mindset and helping people have aha moments. That's the way I like to phrase it now, creating aha moments for people from a pretty young age. So I knew teacher, that's kind of like, if you're good at getting people to have breakthroughs with knowledge or skills, like a teacher is a role for you. And so from an early on age, I was like, oh, I guess that's an option for me. Now I've realized that I have so much more to offer the world than just what fits in the four walls of a school building, and the age groups that are served there. So definitely as I've grown within sport, and built a name for myself within mountaineering and within ultra running, within trail running, along with it has always been that when people come under my wing, whether it's for a short stint where they just are getting knowledge and wisdom and beta, if you will, to use the climber term, that I do that for the length of the project. Or people like Nathan Longhurst comes to mind. He was inspired by some of my early FKTs. He wanted to go beat me. He was 21 at the time. And we ended up climbing some peaks on my big Washington Bulgers. That's the name of the list for the 100 tallest peaks in the state of Washington. We ended up climbing 65 of those together because he just wanted to come out and join for one day, to use it as a training day to then go beat one of my other records. But he fell in love with the experience so much that, we had this whole thing. And, anybody that's climbed a mountain with another human being knows that even just one mountain shared with another human being, you can build a richer friendship in that 36 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours that it takes than entire years of normal life. Because at times you might have each other's lives in your hands. You might see each other at their worst and see how a person's willing to handle you when you're at your worst. So we did, we went from 0 to 65 peaks. So you can imagine the richness of friendship and mentorship and camaraderie that went on in that time. And I've stayed in touch with him. Him being so young, like, I don't think he could really place the value of it early on, that I kind of kept intentionally staying present and helping him out whenever I could. And he went on to climb the whole SPS list, which is 247 peaks in a year, down in the Sierra of California. And then here recently, he went to New Zealand and became the second person ever to complete the New Zealand's 100 Great Peaks Challenge of the New Zealand Alpine Club. And he did it in a single season. The previous person had taken like 30 years to complete them. Wow. And he did it as this cool climb and fly project, blending his new developing skill as a paraglide pilot with his intense skill as a mountaineer and alpinist. So like being able to be involved and help him sort of see the scope and scale of what was possible for him, as opposed to just simply, being a young guy living in a van, chasing some route climbs and some mountain summits, and piecing it together into stories that have inspired other people. And now he's seeing like, oh, like I get what you mean here. Like people are communicating with me as if I've done something great for their life because I did this thing. And I'm like, yeah. When you aim high, it opens the opportunity to lift others. I always circle back to this quote that impacted me from a young age: no stream rises higher than its source. And at first, as a young person, I'm just like, oh, I need to seek the highest form of wisdom and knowledge and pursuit that I possibly can. But now I realize, like, oh, when you do that, when you go on that journey, you end up in the higher place and you can become that source to others. And so ought to seek to become so that you can then turn around and better help. I call it aim high, lift others. And that shapes how I interact with these other mountain athletes when I am in this mentorship position. Even just like these athletes that, I'm helping try to land brand contracts and get some sponsorship money for races or for big adventures, big expeditions they're going on. It's always an element of, well, why are you doing this? Let's say this goes as good as you could possibly dream. Why does it matter? What's next? What is it you're going to do with it? Is it just a memory that you have for yourself, or can you see something more here? And that to me is, it's those ripples, right? It's a life impacting a life, all hopefully leading to those upward spirals that I mentioned earlier. Because I can easily imagine a much worse version of Jason Hardrath that could have come into existence. Like I could have totally been someone depressed and burned out and sick of other people telling me what to do and not having like a cohesive vision or purpose in my life. Just angrily self-sedating with whatever substance came across my way. Like could totally be that guy. It is well within reason. People of my mindset do end up that way. And because I got caught on an upward spiral that guided me toward bigger pursuits, that Jason never came to be. And so if that's true for me, it's true for a bunch of other people. And so that to me is like, why does it all matter? Why still participate in this, like creating opportunities for others and mentoring them? It's well, because I want to live in a world with a bunch of people who are all on their way up, not on their way down.
Yeah, absolutely. It's connecting with that person who's right on the edge or might be thinking about being on the edge. And if he could just impact that life by showing an example, by putting in the hard work. I love aim high allows you to lift others. Jason, so over your journey so far, who has lifted you up? I mean, it's got to have been I find that the best mentors have been mentees over the years, or it's continuous, right? You're always learning and being coached. So I'm curious where you're getting your inspiration, your lift up from.
Oh man. I mean, there's so many key people where like, how do you value those moments where someone sees you and like really sees you and who you are and what you're wrestling with in those low moments and speaks. I like to call it speaking into the space where your dreams live. to me, like, in our modern secular culture, there's not much we hold sacred. But to me, there's not much more sacred than when you notice you're invited into the space where someone's dreams live. And you can always tell, right? They're like a little bit hesitant. They like ease into it, kind of beat around the bush at first. And then they kind of hesitantly like, well, I had this idea. And then it's like, probably what they say next, they haven't even mentioned to their best friends. They've been scared to unpack this with anybody because they're scared it's going to get shot down as stupid. And so they've held it. They've held it inside for however long. But now here you're this person that, well, maybe this person will see something in this. Like, to me, it's like, whoa, I'm about to be in a sanctuary because the words I say next alter this person's trajectory. And so I've had moments where people held space for me in those moments where it could have, poor guidance in those moments could have led me down a much darker path. And I think those people impact me as important mentors. I think of a couple of mentors I had in middle school and high school age. And then it became, because my path is so non-traditional, I live a pretty unusual Spartan life, chasing the things, the passions and the pursuits that animate me and telling the stories that inspire others. And so it became more that I would see an aspect, an expression of a person and be like, ooh, I like how, Ray Zahab does this, or I like how the guys who make the Beat Monday series do this. I like how, so I'd see these different things, these different sort of embodiments and be like, oh, it's like some kind of mixture of these two people. That's kind of what, right, the blurry target. It's like, I'm kind of aiming at something like that, kind of some public speaking, sort of like Dave Rindall does, and adventuring like Ray Zahab does, but more in a way of Jason Anton. It's been more of sort of a build your own mentor experience for me. And like, it's cool that I get to have the opportunity to have conversations with these different people and kind of pick different pieces from top, sort of these top level people in different sports, whether it's ultra running or mountaineering or rock climbing or, public speaking or whatever it might be. And I think that's what's guided me from like college age on, was kind of this awareness that no one person really had what it was I was looking for. Yeah.
Well, it goes back to a comment you made earlier about curiosity, right? You have a curiosity in these people and how they have done X and Y in the public speaking or their mountaineering, and you're putting the pieces together for your own journey. But without that curiosity, you'd still be the skateboarding punk that is still looking to do, I can't remember what a trick was called back when I was skateboarding, but anyways, Jason, just for the benefit of our audience, describe what a fastest known time is. Like, how is that a thing?
Yeah. Now after we've had all this deep conversation, let's actually talk about what an FKT is. So FKT stands for fastest known time. It's, you could think of it like a more ultra running, trail running, mountaineering, rock climbing, sort of outdoor sport oriented Guinness Book of World Records, for people that understand what those are. It's like a record keeping group for this sort of specific niche of athlete. And I'd had a big car accident in 2015, as you mentioned in my intro. I'd been chasing Ironman triathlons prior to that. Some of those bid numbers are hanging on the wall behind me here in my office, for viewers that can't or listeners that can't see that. And yeah, that I had a big pivot after that car accident to, the first doctor I had said like, oh yeah, you're going to let that part of your life go, when I brought up my love for running and triathlon. And there was that dip in emotion, but then, I think there's a reason we have defiance within us. There's a reason that we should have a defiant spirit we can call upon. And so after that, like, sort of moment, that low, sitting in the room after he walked out, because he basically said that and then like had to go see his patient. He's like, oh, that part of your life's probably done. Click. Great bedside manner. And I remember that low kind of sat with me for a while because I didn't know any version of myself, right? In middle school, I started chasing this stuff, pre-middle school. And I didn't know a version of myself that didn't paint himself into reality through physical endeavors. And so it was like a whole almost identity crisis. But then that spirit of defiance kicked on. It's like, no. I've always been the underdog. I've always been the guy who was counted out and been willing to put in more work than anyone thought I would and been able to show up and get it done when it mattered. I'm not going to relent. And this was the actual agreement I made with myself while I was still in that hospital room. It was, I'm not going to relent until I get back to some version of what I love. And it left it open-ended enough, right? Because it's like, I'm not unrealistic. I'm not like creating an artificial reality that can't be possible. Where it's like, oh, I'm going to run Boston qualifiers and win the Olympics or something unrealistic. It's like, no. I'm not going to quit till I get back to some version of what I love, something I'm proud of, something I look forward to, something that inspires me. I'm not just going to get back to comfort. I'm going to get back to that level. And it might not be the same thing, right? My lungs were damaged. My knee was damaged. There was a lot of stuff that said I might not move the same way I used to move. And, I still haven't run any of the times from before the car accident in like shorter, faster races. Like it did make an impact on the performance of my body and what it was capable of. But then I took that and I pivoted and I chased into the mountains. And at first it was just like something to do, go for a hike on a hill. Hill led to a bigger hill, led to a mountain, led to a bigger mountain, led to a mountain that had a technical summit spire where it's like, well, I guess I need to rock climb now. So learned rock climbing and all the skills involved with that. All the while doing the rehab on my knee to get it back to where it would have range of motion. And eventually I got back, after a couple of years, I got to where I could go out and, not really run fast like I used to, but I could run 10 or 20 miles and my knee wouldn't turn into a grapefruit. And it was like, okay, now we have all this technical skill. I can travel glaciers. I can travel rock. Let's go see how many wild peaks I can link up in a weekend and come back and tell my students about it, right? Because again, for me, it's always been that circle. It's always been like part of the why of going and doing the thing is to bring it back so it's inspiring and of value to someone else. And my students it's always been a natural outlet for that because their minds are just so ready to absorb and be a sponge to any possible human lifestyle and endeavor. So I'd always come back and share the stories and some photos and stuff. And then I discovered FKTs and I was like, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to see how fast I can go do technical things in the outdoors. Let's chase down this as far as it goes. And that led to the Journey to 100 project, which culminated in a film. If anybody here hasn't seen it, it's called Journey to 100. Athletic Brewing and I did it together. And it kind of covers some of the 99 FKTs leading up to my final FKT. And then in typical teacher fashion, I chose a great final examination for my last FKT, which was the 100 peaks of the state of Washington as one FKT. And so kind of the journey to 100 has double meaning in that sense that it's both the 100 FKTs and the 100 peaks of the state of Washington.
That's fantastic. It's so inspiring. And we'll include the link to the video, to the film in our show notes. Jason, what mountain are you climbing now? What's the next mountain? What are you getting yourselves into today?
One mountain I'm climbing right now is long COVID hit me pretty hard. I'm one of those people, whether it's blood type or whatever it is they're figuring out now, the science is still so blurry and they're still figuring out on exactly why some people get absolutely debilitated by COVID and some people seem to be like, wow, it was a bad cold. But I'm one of those people that hit me pretty hard. I've had it 4 times. And after the 4th time, it was like, was I really an athlete or did I decide to smoke a pack a day for the last 20 years? It was pretty rough for me, both mood-wise, performance-wise, mental clarity-wise. So that's been a really tough mountain to climb to be like, well, shoot, maybe all these dreams I have are over. All these things I was hoping to accomplish are over. I mean, I knew, right, the writing's on the wall when you're in your 30s that it's like, well, I might eke it out till I'm 40. Maybe I'll make it last being an athlete in his heyday. But eventually, you're going to have to face it. I just didn't expect it to be so sudden. Just a snap of the fingers. And it's like, oh, I can't climb like I used to. I can't do 6 peaks in a day like I used to. And so, yeah, that's been a pretty big mountain to climb. That's one of the reasons I pivoted into paragliding now. I mentioned that Nathan Longhurst took it up, and I'd seen an X-Alps video way back when I was kind of getting into the FKT things. And I think it was like 2016 or something. So a bit before I got into FKTs. And I was like, oh, when my knees start hurting on the downhill, I'll take up paragliding. And it was like, well, fast forward to the here and now, basically last year's when I took up paragliding. I'm like depressed and lacking mental clarity. And like, it feels like my whole identity and all the dreams on the horizon for me have dissolved in front of me. And I'm just lost in the swamps and the mire. And I'm like, oh, Nathan took up paragliding. I said I would take up paragliding when my knees hurt. My knees don't hurt, but my whole body kind of hurts. So this is the new direction. Like, let's just go all in. And I just like leaned into it, and it gave me this positive skill-based expression that wasn't related to how much endurance my body still had. And yeah, it's definitely been a bright spot that's like brought a ton of value and meaning. And now as I'm like starting to figure out more of the health stuff where I can get back to some level of training and some level of pushing my body, it's like, okay, now the horizons are opening up in a whole new way where maybe I can't run in the mountain. Maybe it's like the car accident where I'm not going to be where I was before, but if I can get back to some level of that familiar thing and bring this whole new thing into it, this paragliding into it, now maybe I'm going to go on some wild hike and fly mountain adventures, and use this new medium, this new paintbrush to sort of paint my creativity into the world.
It goes back to the question I asked at the beginning of like, what's the unexpected benefit of your endurance mindset? And I find that being an endurance athlete, and I'm a back of the packer, like I finish with the glow sticks on, but my day is my day and I love it. But it also teaches me about my body and when things are right and when things are wrong. And, 2 years back, like I was at home out of breath, walking up 10 steps going, and this isn't right. Like I've been training for an Ironman. I shouldn't be out of breath. And long story short, I ended up having a pulmonary embolism that my doctor caught, luckily. But if it wasn't for that endurance and the training and understanding your body and your health, you wouldn't find these times to pivot and to make changes in your life that are needed.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
That connection to self, and then that commitment to self as well. Where you're not just ever going to roll over and give up, I guess, But I mean, at some point we all do, but that's way down the line. That's way down the line. There's lots of fight left in the top. So it's like, yeah.
And that's a whole other podcast. So we'll bring you back to talk through the longevity conversation. Jason, an audience member wants to get in touch with you. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
I'm available on Instagram. That's probably the social media I'm on the most. I do have Facebook and some TikTok as well that people can find me on. Just Jason Hardrath on all those things. I have a website, jasonhardrath.com. Kind of get in the process of rebuilding it. So it may or may not work for the next few days. So if you're trying to reach out to me on my contact me form there through email, that'll be available soon again. But yeah, that would be the best.
And I would assume you'd be interested in people reaching out to you if they're like public speaking opportunities or telling your story and mentoring and mountaineering and
absolutely,
all types of stuff.
All of the above, whether it's mountaineering trips, you want to chase FKTs yourself, you want to get plugged in with groups or trips to go travel the world with your endurance ability and go see cool places and go on rad explorations in a supported way, in kind of that trail running, biking, or otherwise, sort of medium. I have connections in all those worlds that help people put together cool adventures. And then, public speaking, coaching, those types of things, mentorship. Those are all things I'm that add value to my life while I add value to another's life.
That's very, very well said. So audience members, if you got some value out of today, please subscribe to our channel. Please share this with your community. Jason, it's been awesome having you on the show. I loved how you started speaking about looking into spaces where dreams live, or speaking in spaces where dreams live, and then the brightness and the blurry target and all this sort of summed up of like learning how to work hard from your father and applying passion and curiosity. Like we really got into some deep content today. Which is unexpected. Back to my unexpected question. You've been a fantastic guest. Thank you for your time. I'm inspired by your story, and keep up the good work.
Thanks so much, Greg. It was a pleasure to be on. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for tuning in to the Chief Endurance Officer podcast. To hear more inspiring stories and strategies around the endurance mindset, be sure to subscribe below or visit us at chiefelduranceofficer.com. Until next time, keep pushing those limits.